Hi there, and welcome to my Action Research virtual poster presentation done by Alecia Russo and completed in the course 8Y43, Section 3. My problem statement. In order for students to thrive, it is crucial that they have a positive sense of self and high self-esteem. If students have a low self-esteem, they may doubt themselves and believe they cannot do a specific task. As an educator, I strive to create a warm, inclusive environment where students are encouraged to try their very best. My goal is to improve student self-esteem and confidence levels so that they will believe they can achieve anything. Having a sense of belonging in the inclusive classroom is an important component in developing a positive self-esteem. Statement of the research problem. The central focus of my research problem is regarding student self-esteem and confidence levels. I decided to research this specific problem because studies have shown that students perform better on tasks when they have a high self-esteem and are confident. Improving student self-esteem is not only important for their education, but also in the real world, such as their social lives. The higher their self-esteem, the more content they will be. As an educator, it is my responsibility to create a classroom that is inclusive to everyone, where students feel valued and appreciated. My research question is, as an educator, how can I improve my students' self-esteem and confidence levels in performing a task? Definitions of central and relevant terms. So I decided to define the two words of self-esteem and confidence. Self-esteem is defined as confidence in one's own worth or abilities, self-respect. Synonyms are pride, confidence, and dignity. Confidence is defined as a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. And I got these definitions from www.dictionary.com. Okay, now for my literature annotated bibliography. For my first article, it is titled Teachers' Politeness as a Predictor of Student Self-Esteem and Academic Performance. My APA citation is as followed, and my annotated bibliography includes. This article focused on the relationship between academic performance and student self-esteem. The study found that in response to the teacher's warm and caring nature, students developed a high self-esteem. Having this sense of self-efficacy positively impacted their education as they were more engaged, performed higher on tasks, and essentially displayed increased motivation to learn. This answers my research question. For my second article, it's titled ISMS, a new model for improving student motivation and self-esteem in primary education. My APA citation is as followed, and my annotated bibliography includes. This study dedicated their research to find what strategies improve self-esteem in primary students, grades 1 to 3. The researchers developed a model which enabled students to believe that they were the architect of their own life. In other words, they could make their own success. Having this positive mindset improves not only their self-esteem, but also their motivation. In regards to my research question, perhaps inquiry-based learning can be related to positive self-esteem and confidence levels. My third article is titled Self-Concept and Self-Efficacy in Mathematics, Relation with Mathematics, Motivation and Achievement. My APA citation is as followed, as well as my annotated bibliography, which includes. Instead of generalizing to all academic achievement, this article focuses on the mathematics. The study found that if students did well on a previous task, that they would develop a positive self-efficacy and perform better on the task at hand. They were able to gain confidence from their previous achievements and apply it to their work. The participants in this study included middle school students as well as high school students, which proves that self-esteem affects us throughout our entire lives and can positively influence our academic achievement or inhibit it. Article number 4, the role of optimism, self-esteem, academic self-efficacy, and gender in high-ability students. My APA citation is as followed, as well as my annotated bibliography, which includes: optimism and self-esteem are both psychological attributes which have a positive impact on well-being. Being optimistic allows individuals to cope with the many stressors in society and influence our mental health. The ability to train our brains to think positively impacts our self-esteem and self-efficacy. This study found that the more optimistic students were, the better they were able to cope with stress and therefore perform better on academics. Article number 5, high self-esteem as a coping strategy for students with learning disabilities. My APA citation is as followed, following by my annotated bibliography. This was a very interesting journal article which focused on students with exceptionalities, particularly learning disabilities, and how they used high self-esteem as a coping strategy in school. Self-esteem can be considered as a coping mechanism for learning disabled students to accept their disability and to strive for positive self-development. The higher their confidence levels, the better they will do. My literature summary. For the collection of my research, I ensured that the journal articles were scholarly and peer-reviewed. My research question focused on the ways in which I, as an educator, can improve my students' self-esteem and confidence levels in the classroom. Studies found that the higher the self-esteem, the better students performed on academic tasks. This also has to do with self-efficacy and the knowledge of one's abilities. Each article proposed a structured experiment where self-esteem and confidence in students was the basis of their study. I explored articles surrounding teachers' politeness as a predictor of student self-esteem, motivation in mathematics, the role of optimism, and self-esteem as a coping strategy for students with learning disabilities. And this was by Kumar and Raja, 2009. It is evident that self-esteem is a major factor when it comes to succeeding in academics. Results showed that in order for students to have a high self-esteem and a positive sense of self, they need to be praised for their work, shown that they are cared for, know that mistakes are welcomed, and be in a safe, comfortable environment. I want to make it my goal for my future classroom to be a positive, welcoming environment where all students feel that they matter and that they belong. Literary summary conclusion. In essence, having a high self-esteem is beneficial to students when it comes to academics. However, the role of the parents as well as the teacher is crucial in developing a high self-esteem. Having an optimistic attitude and knowing that you create your own success can help students be more motivated to learn and in turn will allow them to succeed. My research action plan. In order to answer my research question, I must implement a plan which involves collecting data, analyzing results, sharing and communicating the results, and reflecting on the process. Now for my data sources. The data sources I will use for the collection of research will be both qualitative and quantitative data sources. The qualitative data sources will include interviews, surveys, anecdotal notes, questionnaires, and checklists. The quantitative data sources will include surveys, quizzes, rating scales, school records, and classroom assessment scores. Next, I will touch upon triangulation, validity, and reliability. The top 3 data sources I will use in my research action plan will be surveys, interviews, and rating scales. These sources will promote a rich, robust, and deep description of the phenomenon. Reliability is to ensure that the data is consistent. I will conduct a large sample for my surveys, interviews, and rating scales so that I will ensure my results will be the same or consistent. Validity. In order to ensure that the data collected is valid or truthful, I will ensure that the participants are aware that the surveys and rating scales, as well as interviews, will remain completely anonymous as well as confidential, which means that I will not be asking for any personal information. Participants and setting. The participants in my research project will be students from grades 1 to 8, teachers, as well as parents. For the setting, the data sources will be collected at elementary schools in the classroom, except for the surveys, which will be posted online to voluntarily complete. Ethical considerations. I will maintain confidentiality by assuring participants that their surveys and interviews will remain anonymous. I will not ask for their names or any personal information, just specific questions related to the research question. I will supply them with a handout that will include the description of my research project and what it involves, so they have an understanding of what they are participating in. I will also make it clear to my participants that they can drop out at whatever time they feel. If they're feeling uncomfortable at any parts, they are welcomed to let me know and drop out from the research. Now for my timeline chart, which will be the data collection process. So I've laid out in this format my 3 data sources, which are surveys, interviews, and rating scales. So for surveys, I will be conducting these once a week from September 2019 to June 2020. However, they will also be available online for students, parents, and teachers to complete voluntarily. Next, for interviews, at the end of each month, I will conduct an interview from September 2019 to June 2020, and each interview will last approximately 5 minutes each. Lastly, for my rating scales, these will be done every other week from September 2019 to June 2020. And these are very similar to surveys, except they're done so more efficiently with a scale provided. Data analysis. I will be analyzing data collected from surveys, interviews, and rating scales. The surveys will be given to both students and teachers. Questions for students will include: how would you describe your confidence level? Low, medium, or high? As a student, would you say your academic achievement is below average, average, or above average? The interviews will consist of open-ended questions about students' self-esteem, performance levels, and how they like their teacher. And rating scales will ask similar questions as a survey, but using more accurate measures. Surveys. I will be finding the average and mean scores of the surveys to identify answers that were most consistent. The surveys will be displayed on a spreadsheet, which will show percentages and results. Interviews. I will be analyzing my participants' answers on a pre-recorded device. I will make anecdotal notes on any similarities or differences between respondents' answers. Rating scales. Similar to surveys, these scales will visually be presented on a spreadsheet to show mean, median, and mode of the results as well as percentages. Closure. This research study will support my teaching practice as it will allow me to develop methods and strategies to promote positive self-esteem and confidence levels in students so that they can perform well on academic tasks. Studies have shown that by praising students' work, creating a welcoming, positive environment, and exuding a nurturing presence, students will develop a positive sense of self, which will result in academic achievement. I look forward to making a difference in the lives of my students and showing them that anything is possible if they put their minds to it. Thank you so much.